Welcome back to Dolor Factor Live. You've been wondering, why did she go so quickly? It's because I've got so many giveaways and I wanted to show you some. I started to show you this one, okay? This is, I was going to say the answer. I'm going to say to you, where do you think this shirt comes from? Do I need to give you a hint? Where do you think what I'm wearing comes from, okay? So where do you think, in terms of, I've got my top and my trousers, or my leggings and my shoes, where do you think this comes from? That is one of the questions tonight, okay? And you'll win this shirt. Don't worry about the size. We'll get the size changed for you. And they also have another color. They have a white, which is really, really lovely. So if you like this shirt, all you have to do is say, where can you buy it from? Okay, to win a manicure or a pedicure for a man, tell us the names of DFL's spa sponsors, okay? DFL's spa sponsors, all right, plural. Now, we've got more giveaways, but what I want you to do is just answer those questions first, and then we can do some more, because if not, we're just going to get inundated. But welcome back to DBS and the DFL studio with Emile Williams from Phase 1 and Dr. Pierre. Tonight, we're talking about men and what elements make them suave, sexy, or shabby, okay? And what I want to do now is actually ask for a definition from the men, because I think a man's definition of suave, sexy and shabby would be different from a woman's definition. So in fact, Emile, before I ask you that question, let's ask a little bit about yourself. Although you'd be surprised how many people, when we actually said Emile was coming on the show, a lot of people on my BlackBerry said, oh yes, this Emile from Phase 1, you know, and someone actually, about 3 people said great customer services at Phase 1. They said great customer services, and that's not something that we hear a lot in St. Lucia, so you're doing a good job there.
Thank you.
But tell us a little bit about Emile.
Well, I mean, of course, I was born and brought up in England, and subsequently moved to St. Lucia and opened up a salon called Phase 1. And the aim essentially was to really work with customer care, to really provide a service which is second to none, and to move the Caribbean away from the idea that service has to be poor or blasé. Really to try and operate from a place of absolute professionalism where the customer is always first. And by definition, it means giving the extra. When somebody comes to you, they have made a determined decision to do so. They've passed many shops, many businesses on the way, and they've made a decision to come to you. Mm-hmm. So I think you're then duty bound to respond in an appropriate way. So that's what we aim to do at Phase 1.
Good. And you love St. Lucia, obviously, because
I absolutely adore St. Lucia. I think that we have an amazing island, wonderful people, great potential. I think the art world in St. Lucia is amazing, the amount of talent, the amount of latent talent that we have in St. Lucia, which is just bursting at the seams and really just trying to find its own way. And I think it's a great place. It's a melting pot of talent. And I think for anyone who's really looking for an island where there is talent, where there is beauty, where there is great potential, I think there's no place like St. Lucia.
Great. I think I'd have to second that.
Yeah.
And okay, so you're in a great position then to talk about male beauty, although you look after predominantly female beauty, but you know, maybe you might be able to guide some of the men here who are not sure, because as I said earlier, a lot of men said, you know, the last time we did a similar program, everyone spoke a lot about the women and, you know, wardrobe faux pas and things like that. And they wanted to know, because obviously they didn't realize sometimes that their dress sense was just not right. So we thought we'd talk about that, you know, a little later. But first of all, Emile, can you tell us, what is your definition of suave then, a man who is suave?
Well, I think any dress sense or any idea of how you present yourself is about, first of all, identifying your own attributes, whether you're short, whether you're tall, and it's having, for me, a deep sense of awareness and learning to live with that. So, if for instance, not every guy is 6 foot tall. So I think the first thing is actually having a self-awareness, and that awareness comes through either personal and public hygiene, i.e. taking, for example, the way you brush your teeth, the way you comb your hair, how many times you have a shower. It's actually, and also the way you address you. I think it starts with you. It's a recognizing. So suave isn't necessarily an outer attribute, I think it starts with an inner attribute, what I call a self-actualization, where you are aware of how you present yourself as this body, this canvas that God's given you. I think often we can mistake suave because somebody's wearing a wonderful suit or is wearing a Giorgio Armani shirt or something. But I think suave for me is actually, and even in terms of good manners,
Yes.
a man who says excuse me, a man who opens the door for someone, and a man who recognizes that somebody needs help. Even if you're walking in the supermarket along the aisle and just excusing me rather than just bolting through, it's an awareness of yourself, your surrounding, and how you respond to that. I think there's some suave in that, and it's actually it's an education as well.
Okay, no, I'm nodding because I agree with you, and I'm thinking of the female version of that. And I was going to ask Al Suave, but he was nodding his head, and I thought, no, he's going to have more problem defining sexy. So, what, as a man, what would you define a sexy man? And I'm saying it obviously as a heterosexual man. You can see another man, I think. Like a woman, you can see another woman and say, she's quite attractive. It doesn't mean that there's anything...
I wouldn't say a man is sexy, but I might say that he...
What makes... Yeah, what makes...
He looks well. I think, the definition of sexy, I mean, for both the male and female gender has changed over the years. So I think before it spoke purely to an outward appearance. But I think right now, and just to, piggyback on what Emile was discussing, it has to do with a lot of internal values as well. The way you carry yourself. I think a sexy man, a man who dresses the best, but yet still has very, very bad manners, is not sexy, or lacks sex appeal. Yeah, and sex appeal does not mean the gentleman that you want to take to bed immediately, but the gentleman that you would not mind conversing with, or being seen with, or hanging out with, or perhaps eventually this evolves into a relationship. So I think when you think of sexy, I think it has to do with an attitude as well, more than just as I said, an outward appearance. I think it's a personality trait as well. I think it comes with education, good manners.
Is that why then that many men would not wear sexy things in the bedroom then? Because a lot of women are saying that the men in the bedroom, men think of sex as being sexy, but they're not sexy in the way that they would expect a woman to be sexy, in terms of a woman wears her lingerie and so on. A man will not come with the Tarzan suit or something,
Interesting.
well, in that, I mean, then again, it also differs from person to person, because the things that I may do in my bedroom, which may be considered sexy to one person, and that's why I say there's no one general rule for being sexy, or what is considered sexy. There are women, for example, who considers a man who perhaps is not clean shaven, but has just a few stubs and so on. It's a very sexy, appealing thing. And there are women, for example, who can't stand it. There are women who find a mustache sexy, and there are those who just can't stand facial hair of any kind. There are men, for example, men who find that jeans and t-shirt is very sexy. And there are women who find that, oh my gosh, jeans and t-shirt, dress them a bit. So I think it varies from person to person, especially when you're speaking of the outward appearance. But the general rule that applies when you speak of sexy, good manners. I don't care how
sexy.
No, I don't care how
good
you dress.
manners is not sexy. That's more suave than it's sexy.
I don't care how you if I dress very well, Delia, I am dressed in one of the best suits, and I come to
you feel sexy perhaps.
No, but I take you to dinner and I just sit at the table. The sex appeal is gone out the door. It doesn't matter how I look. So I think, it's not just one thing or the other. It's a combination of several things. I think your approach, your personality, your manners also comes into play.
But I think that we also live in a very fickle society, where I think sexy is also about the instant gratification. So that sexy and sex appeal could be a woman's interpretation of somebody who works out, someone who, as you talk about in a t-shirt, but whose muscles are being outwardly pronounced, someone who has a wonderful voice,
or has a gap in there too,
or a gap in there.
I mean, some people they absolutely love that, and some people just hate it.
It could be something as simple as the way you walk.
Precisely.
I have seen women look at the guy with a pot belly, but because he carries himself in a way, he has an upright presence.
I'm not denying that.
This guy is sexy.
I'm still going back, and I'm saying that I don't see how manners can be sexy. I don't see how manners can be
The question you have to
sexy.
say, take the manners out of it and see how sexy you really are. That's it.
No, I'm still disagreeing.
Take them. If I come to you and I say, hey girl, what's up? Why you say that? It doesn't matter how good I look, how much I walk, how buff I am. The sexy goes out the door. So it goes to show that this really comes into play.
Are we talking?
Yeah, but it's still not sexy.
But are we
That's
talking
not
about a
sex.
particular type of woman? Because I think that some women would probably find that sexy.
Yes.
And someone who's actually absolutely. I think there are women who, on a certain level, will find certain things sexy.
The trash talking sexy?
Yeah, absolutely. Because that's what they allude to. There's some women who genuinely allude to that. So I think if we're talking about sexy, is it about a particular social class? Because I think depending on your social class, depending on your perception of sexy, I think that the actual interpretation of it differs.
Sometimes, yeah, I can agree with you there.
But I go back to the fact that if we're relating sexy to sex appeal, we can't just focus on one's appearance or to determine that there's sex appeal. There has to be more.
No, you know, you're talking, and I'm saying to myself, we only took about a minute to discover or to discuss Suave.
Yeah.
We've been here on sexy all the time, and I want to talk about Shabby. What's the definition of, as a man, as a shabby man?
I think that shabby, I think, has a lot to do with how a man handles his domestic affairs. I think if you shabby could be a guy who thinks his sex appeal is about having children all over the place, and not looking at who actually identifies with his manhood as just sowing seeds all over the place in a very irresponsible way. Shabby is somebody who I think goes after another human being, knowing that they're really not there for anything good. They're just there to take what they want, and they know they're out of there in a minute.
All right, you know what? I have to go for a break, and when we come back, we're going to get Al's response because his face is doing all kind of
contortions.
Things. Yes, on there. So stay with us on Dolor Factor Live, and when we return, we're going to be talking more about men. Are they suave, sexy, or just shabby? We'll be right back.